And coming to you live from Turgun Bogd, here off the coast of Orog Lake in Mongolia. We are here with the 45th edition. Can you believe it? 45. That's a good number. Edition of ESL Pro Tour Open Cup Asia Division. I am, of course, the host, Yaku of Yakuzaku, and with me today we have El Juez que traicionó la ley pero solo coña, Mandibula himself, Light_VIP. How you doing, Light?
What's up, Yaku? We're here, we're back, and oh my god, I don't know if you saw the bracket, but this is gonna be an insane weekly. We have so many returning players, so many hype matchups. It's such a shame because there are so many that we want to get into, but we can pick and choose only a handful.
Yeah, normally when there are a lot of potential hype first matches, we look at the potential second matches. But today there were just as many as the first matches. So we decided to go into what we thought was going to be pretty good, and here we go. Let's start. In the top left-hand corner map, spawning all the way in the top left-hand corner, we have the red Terran player coming out from the land of South Korea. He is Death himself. Currently teamless. Everybody give it up for ByuN.
And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Death Aura LE, we have the South Korean Protoss player, the light blue Protoss. I love it. We barely get to see it. He is currently teamless. He is Fork.
Man, if this isn't a match of the clash of the returning military player versus the young going into the military player.
Yeah, pretty much.
And you sort of see how wide-eyed Fork is over here. Immediately with the NG block, deciding to go for a Fort Nexus. Knowing ByuN, that's exactly what he wants.
I'm honestly pretty surprised because more often than not, we see Protoss players, they just delay their Nexus and they try to deal with this, get a Zealot out or something. But yeah, he's kind of forced to take his expansion over here pretty aggressively. Or exposed.
TTS, it is pretty exposed in a PvT, and especially when I think of ByuN, I think of the player who really wants to hit a timing, or at least in his TvP. And the fact that that's just such an exposed area, I have a couple of doubts, but I will say this, Fork is getting it quite a bit earlier and does have a pylon down, so potentially a couple of shield batteries or something can really aid in the defense.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we've casted Fork a couple of times now. It's him and it's Fork alongside some of these other Korean amateur players like Percival and Control. They've really kind of been, playing consistently throughout this year, throughout 2020. We're really kind of waiting to see if they can, go take it that step further, and break into that pro scene, which is so difficult to do in Korea.
Aren't half of them like in the military by now?
Yep, this is true. This is true.
All right, but we'll have to see what they can get much done. Fork not really getting the scout off, but at least keeps the Adept alive, delays the natural base fight a little bit.
Yeah, it's pretty important that he was able to do so, especially because of that NG block, right? Like, anything you can get done at this stage of the game, take what you can as a Protoss player. We do see that he is going for a Stargate opener, opting to go for an Oracle first, which is pretty interesting. We'll see if ByuN ends up keeping these Widowmines here defensively at home, or if he just zooms across the map.
Well, he's more than likely going to keep them at home for a little while, as there was a little bit of a delay on that medevac.
Okay.
Little Hellions coming in, and that is enough to one-shot. Oh, apparently not. It's enough to two-shot is the thing.
Yeah, Hellions. I mean, thankfully there was a shoe battery here, a couple of units. The Oracle does get revealed, but is forced to stay at home and defend and not go across the map and harass.
Yeah, exactly what ByuN wanted to get done out of his Hellion. Well, probably wanted to get more probes, but the important part is he has taken the map control. Fork is not out in the map with that Oracle. He's staying back at home, and now here comes the mine drop, Light.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's no need to keep any of the mines at home. They're all just going to dive in. Speaking of diving in, the Hellions dive into the mineral line again.
And that's already, without the mines, 8 probes going down, forcing the Oracle once again to just go completely to the back of this base. And here's the thing that worries me, like, okay, well, he doesn't have an armory, does he, ByuN?
No, I was thinking,
all right.
I was thinking along the same lines. I'm like, yo, well, that means the Oracles are not gonna have enough energy for Revelation, but it's okay. He doesn't have an armory, so Fork doesn't necessarily need detection. But oh my god, look at him waddle in.
High ground, mine light. Fork isn't gonna pull. Fork isn't pulling at all. 14 probes have gone down, and just like that, ByuN has turned this into a worker advantage.
Exactly. I thought you were gonna say he's turned this around, mate. He's been ahead. You know, he's been applying all the aggression to Fork, and unfortunately, Fork, he didn't react. He reacted relatively well to the Hellions, you know, dealing with them, but the Widow Mines, they just dealt so much damage.
Arguably game ending, but we'll see what Fork gets done beyond this. Fortune being finished, but considering the economic position this early on, he's not going to be able to use that for anything too offensive.
Yeah, exactly. The problem is, like, these Oracles, they were revealed earlier, and now ByuN is in position. He immediately snipes one of the Oracles.
I guess the other one down to half health. This is not looking too good for our Teal Protoss player.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I mean, again, you know, what do you expect when you're going up against someone of the class of ByuN? He may not be like a current GSL champion or anything like that. You know, he is currently overshadowed by players like Maru and TY, but he's still, you know, such a good player, and he's been showing off a little bit in these weeklies.
And that's just about everything that we love to see as he comes back in for a second mine drop. There is a probe pull this time, but not every probe gets out. Observer will help.
The Observer.
Another 4 probes. And a recall?
I was about to say, speaking of getting out, he was stuck.
Ouch. That is worrisome. That is definitely very worrisome. Colossus is about to come out, though. And that's just about going to be the first step of defense here for the Protoss player.
Yeah.
See how aggressive ByuN decides to be, though.
Exactly. Like, ByuN, he's just been harassing non-stop, and we were talking about these timings earlier. Well, at least you were talking about these timings that ByuN wants to hit, and you know what? That's exactly what's going to happen. We have +1 attack, we've got Stim on the way, Combat Shield, and it all should be lining up by the time ByuN gets across the map with his army.
Yeah, just about perfect. And just before Fork can get too much defenses up, I mean, I'm looking at his base right now, Light, and again, this goes back right to the start of the game. ByuN, he went with that Energy Bay block, hoping to get a lay. Instead, he got a victory with that.
Pretty much, right? Like, here's that. Exactly, like, Fork is still on 2 bases. He has a shield battery in the mineral line. There's nothing out here to really defend against this push. He doesn't even spot it, and now he's sieged up. He's coming up the ramp.
Yeah, and it's such a precarious position right now. I mean, the tanks, one of the tanks is in range of the Nexus, and the other one just really providing support for anything that comes this way. Fork, with only 1 Colossus, it is not looking too good in terms of his defense. Will have to sacrifice his Nexus.
Yeah, the Nexus does go down, and the problem is that it's not like there was a natural to fall back to, you know? Like, there's just nothing here. We just have all these probes, long-distance mining. Sure, I mean, the good thing is that he didn't really commit to a big fight, so he kept the majority of his army alive, but now he's on 1 base.
He is on 1 base, and this is definitely what we're talking about. Look at these tanks. Siege right covering the main, and ByuN, okay, not going to do what we see some of the Terran players do, where they just drop right into the main base. Instead, just going to be sort of pulling a pseudo-contain. Never mind, there's a drop.
There we go. He was just setting up, making sure he knew where the army was. He just drops into the main, and the army is out of position. Ooh, but the tanks are exposed.
Yeah, the tanks are looking very exposed right now, but the problem is, what is there to really take advantage of that? A lot of Protoss army is the answer. That's not quite going to be enough for the rest of this ByuN army, though.
Yeah.
Looking pretty exposed. All right, but ByuN not fighting.
Exactly. He just dives in, kills 33 workers, picks up, and just takes off. What is there to really stop this? A single Void Ray.
Void Ray! It's gonna kill him! It's gonna hurt them right into the Stalker's line! So much supply going down for ByuN! But he has so much supply back at home.
That's
and
the
he
problem.
mixed it out with these 2 medevacs.
I'm honestly surprised he was able to escape with 2 medevacs. Jesus Christ. Meanwhile, the reinforcements are here. Fork can't even chase those medevacs because of the Widowmine minefields here outside his natural, outside his main, outside his base. And oh, I do like this move.
Yeah, using a bit of a Haloop just to tank whatever damage he can get. Thermalant's really helping out a ton here, chewing through the Marines, but it doesn't quite look like it's going to be enough. Not that many Marines and that many Marauders. GG is called. ByuN can be taking game number 1.
GG. ByuN does take game number 1, and again, that's kind of what we expect, but it's always nice to see ByuN in form, performing well.
Yeah, definitely is. What was interesting from that game is that we could almost see that domino effect, right? Or maybe not the domino effect, but the butterfly effect, just by taking that third base early in that particular position. I would even argue that the third base in the back, I don't know, what do you think, Light? If you were to, if you really wanted to get a second base up and didn't want to bother clearing out the NG,
right?
What do you think of maybe, or potentially a ninja?
All right, calm down, buddy.
What if he got a ninja base?
Wait, what?
No, it checks out like he gets a ninja base, and then ByuN, he doesn't know where to.
You know what he does? He pulls a Patty Mac and he actually proxies the Nexus in the main base of ByuN and then recalls some adepts into the main. Like, that's what you do. You apply aggression on the other side of the map.
Really, exactly. He had to get a Nexus up. May as well get it as a proxy.
Oh, God.
It makes sense. That's all I'm saying. But speaking of making sense, we are now on to the map that makes a lot of sense considering the title. It is Lightshade, LE. And in the bottom right-hand corner map, spawning all the way in the bottom right-hand corner, we have the red Terran player, hailing from the land of South Korea. He is currently teamless, so you know, any team owners want to pick up a little phone call. I'm looking at you, Team LP. Actually, no, Patience is not Team LP anymore, is he? Yeah, so there's no point. He is the Puppy King himself, the Ghost King as well as Death. That has no king at the end. We have ByuN.
And spawning in the top left-hand corner of Lightshade LE, we have the now darker blue Protoss player, also currently teamless. He is the South Korean Protoss, Fork.
I like it, Light. He gave in to the dark side.
He did get a shade darker. And you know, speaking on what you were saying, you know, it's hard to believe that a player like ByuN has been teamless for so long. I'm gonna bring this back a little bit, and you know, we did recently get an announcement that Team Liquid picked up Crank. How crazy would it be if TL picked up ByuN?
I mean, they've got Tasia.
They do have Tasia.
I would imagine if I mean I'm not sure how it would work in the Liquid office, so to speak. But if I was thinking, all right, I want another Korean player, I would be thinking of maybe picking up someone of a different race. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's hard to say because, like, I would agree with that if there were, like, these big, consistent, like, team leagues that they were a part of.
True, that's accurate.
Yeah, and it makes sense to get, like, a well-rounded roster. Nowadays, other than the Chinese team league, like, there aren't really... Yeah,
you may as well just pick up the player with the most fans.
Pretty much. And I mean, ByuN, he's got plenty of them. Like, he has a really big social media presence. He has a big fan following for a reason. He's a good player. I feel like there's a lot of, you know, incentives to pick up a player like ByuN.
The president of his fan club, at least unofficially, is in our clan.
You're not wrong. Oh, God.
But, look at you, princess.
But yeah, again, pretty interesting. You know, I guess we'll see what happens in 2021 for a couple of reasons, right? Especially because, like, ByuN hasn't really necessarily been able to perform in something like GSL.
Yeah, he didn't get that much time, and the time that he did, I mean, he had a pretty big, I don't want to call it a breakout performance, because he's obviously a returning player, but I think he did a lot better than a lot of people expected, taking out the likes of Parting and whatnot. Then he got to the next group phase of the group stage, and yeah, his old issues came back to haunt him.
Yeah.
Talking, of course, about his wrist.
Definitely, definitely. It's such a shame that like there are players like ByuN and Tasia as well who suffer from that sort of thing. So hopefully they are taking care of themselves. Hopefully ByuN is taking care of himself enough to be able to compete here without too many issues. So far we haven't really seen any issues. Again, we did have another NG block. This time Fork, he didn't expand to another location, but oh my god, the probes line up!
The drones do line up, or the probes rather. And this time there is no shield battery. Take a little bit of damage. This is way more damage, and this is before the mine drop. I would like to remind everyone back at home, 18 probes already going down, and ByuN ahead by 11 workers this early on. That is absolutely insane.
Jesus Christ! You could definitely argue that Fork went for a safer opener, right? Like he decided to invest in his production a little bit more, get a couple of units out as well. But even though he got his base at his natural location, not at the third, he lost so many more workers compared to game one.
This is why every Terran player dreams to become ByuN. He sees the smallest opening and he says, you know what? I know exactly where I need to click. I know exactly where I need to position my units to make the most out of that. Now, Fork, he is doing quite a bit to try to equalize here, but ByuN, unfortunately, scouting that Warp Prism a little earlier on. He even has a Viking out now.
Yeah, I love the little micro dance that they just had because Fork was trying to bait after. Oh no!
Friendly fire on air units, man.
Oh my god!
That has got to be painful. Fork did everything right there. He picked up his units to retreat, but just a little miscalculation. My god, he's got to be kicking himself.
Yeah, like he was trying to do that earlier. Like when he was outside the production, you could see he was trying to bait out Widowmine shots to pick up the Stalkers. Meanwhile, ByuN was burrowing and unburrowing his own Widowmines, and there in the end, Fork, he did everything right except the AoE range was just a little bit too big.
It's like ByuN's a psychic, is what it really is. He's thinking, how do I make the most out of his AoE? Even more probes start to go down. And ByuN just gonna maintain his worker lead. 18 ahead.
Jesus.
18 ahead. Plus fuels.
Oh my god, it feels bad, man. Like, Fork, like he had the right idea, but it just didn't go out his way. Like, he even had, like his micro was honestly, it wasn't bad. It was just,
it was pretty good.
Yeah. Wow.
Another question that I suppose we're gonna have to propose is, how does Fork start turning this game around? I mean, it looks like he's just about run off harassment tools, right? He doesn't have his Warp Prism. He didn't make a Stargate.
Yeah, like he would have to rebuild the Stargate. I'm sorry, rebuild the Warp Prism, but oh my god, he doesn't react either. It loses 4 more probes.
I'm a Terran player who loves mind dropping, and even I feel like even I can't stand to watch this.
Exactly. Like Fork, his economy is crippled. His army is crippled, right? Losing those 4 Stalkers and the Warp Prism. Without a Warp Prism, you can't really harass across the map, so Fork is just forced to stay at home defensively. And, oh boy.
I feel like ByuN has really learned something from his wrist issue, that being, if I apply enough pressure, something's gonna pop.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, hopefully my opponent is the answer there. And yeah, oh god, we'll see if Fork is somehow. The problem is that, alright, if you're a Protoss player and if you're in this position, there are ways to get back into this, but like it's things like DTs or disruptors or something that really catches your opponent off guard, and it's so hard to do, so it loses 4 more.
Literally twice the worker count. ByuN is that. And we see how he's making use of that. He's been building up his army, Stim now starting up, and I think we all know where this is going.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is going to round 2. As this is going. We're gonna see. We're heading straight to Solar out of this series as ByuN. He's all the way up in supply, up in workers. He's on 3 CCs. He's got triple mules. He's even got Vikings patrolling all over the place just to make sure he doesn't get caught off guard. Oof.
Masterful is what ByuN is showing us right now. A masterful performance. And now he's even got the Raven when, I mean, he knows that, Fork isn't going to be able to afford any Colossus anytime soon, but you know what? Just to round things off, just to make sure that he's got his unit checklist down.
Pretty much, yeah, exactly. Again, like the Raven is so important just to make sure, you know, for the Colossus or for DTs or something like that, you know, so nothing too crazy catches him off guard. And we do see Fork, I like this, is trying to deceive him. He's getting his own Colossus, maybe to bait out some interference matrix.
Yeah, that would absolutely be ideal right now. Bait out the interference matrix, waste the Raven energy, or, you know, maybe even potentially get a mine hit or two. I feel like if the Raven gets close enough, ByuN is going to realize it's no loop, though.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see how this engagement goes again. Oh, God.
It says, oh, beautiful anti-armor, coating just about every unit here. And Fork does have a recall, but the question is, does he want to use it? This is his final stand. I doubt he'll recall, even if he looked to. Even getting the interference matrix on one of the Immortals. Good game, well played is called. ByuN gonna be taking that series, facing Solar in that second round. Whew. What a series you got there.
Exactly. GG ByuN, of course, he does take Fork out. And as you said, one of the biggest reasons why we jumped on this series was so we can make sure we get into this amazing round of 16 matchup, ByuN versus Solar.